Hello friends, and welcome to the Hanged Man in the Moon. Friends, I have a wonderful treat for you. You probably already saw from the title to this video. I have a deck to show you. It's called either the Jacob Jerger Tarot or the Jacob Jerger Tarot. It's a wonderful tarot. It's a Besançon Tarot, which means that instead of having the Popess and the Pope, we have Juno and Jupiter for those positions. It's a fabulous deck. I have another copy of this deck. I've had this copy of the Jacob Jerger Tarot for quite a while. This is a deck published by Yves Renaud, and this is a deck which I received for review, published by Artisan Tarot. They produce phenomenal, wonderful, beautiful decks. So we're going to be looking at this new production of the Jacob Jerger Tarot, and I'll do a side-by-side with my older edition. Are you all ready? If you want to watch this, stay tuned. We'll turn the camera down and dive in together. Here we go. Friends, here we are. This is a wonderful deck, the Jacob Jerger Tarot de Besançon, and you can see that it's created by Artisan Tarot. The website is www.artisantarot.com. Now, full disclosure, I have taken this deck out of the box. I have not looked at the deck closely, but I have reorganized the deck to match the way I like to present tarot. So I've gone in and made sure that the major arcana is in order. I made sure that the suits are in the order that I like to have them in. And just to let you know that when decks come from Artisan Tarot, they usually come for the minors. They start with the 10 and work their way down to the ace and then have the major arcana, the court cards. I prefer having it start with ace and go to 10 and then move to the court cards. So that's the way I reorganized this deck just a little bit. I haven't, again, looked closely at any of the images. I've just looked at the numbers. And before we do the actual side-by-side with my deck from Yves Renaud, let's open up this box, because this is a wonderfully produced, very durable deck. The box is... It's not, I mean, it's a flip-top box in fairly common card stock for boxes. It's a little bit glossy, you can see. This is what the backs of the deck will look like. It's got a sticker. Now, if you know, well, if you know, you know. The Pagan and Otherworlds and decks from USI, which I think use very similar cardstock, they will have a seal over the top of the deck. However, for those of us who know, there's a way to get into the bottom of the deck. It's a flip top on the bottom as well, a flip bottom, if you will. So you can open up the bottom, maintain the seal, and access the deck just as easily. Unfortunately, fortunately or unfortunately, this is not a flip bottom. This is a very sealed bottom, which has one benefit. The benefit is that you don't have that flap on the inside of the bottom of the deck that you have to worry about when trying to reinsert the cards into the box. So that's a benefit. However, it does mean that I had to break the seal, which was a little bit sad. So for one benefit, we have a little bit of a loss, but breaking of the seal is not a deal breaker by any means. So here I am taking the deck out of, okay, so let me hide that. Hide one thing, just hide one little thing. Yes, put that there and put that there, and here we go. So, oh yes, so backs of the deck. Yep, just like the box. And let's go to the title card. Let's see, there's an information card here too. Where is the information card? Is it still in the box? It's still in the box. Okay, so actually, let's see. This should be here. Whoops, don't look at that. This should be here. Here we go. So, I wanted to read this information card because it gives a very nice, concise description of the Tarot de Besançon and this deck. So, let's read together. This restoration is based on the 1820 to 1845 tarot deck created by German-born master cartier Jacob Jerger, I'm going to say that, in Besançon, France. The original decks were printed from carved wood blocks and colored with stencils. So, very typical Tarot de Marseille. Wood blocks, colored stencils. The Tarot de Besançon is derived from the earlier Tarot de Marseille. The most notable difference is the replacement of the Popess and the Pope with the Roman gods Juno and Jupiter, which I mentioned in the intro, right? Experts believe these figures were changed to prevent offense in regions with diverse religious beliefs, aka strong Roman Catholic beliefs and Protestant beliefs. Other distinctive characteristics include the description Franz J. Jaeger on each trump and court card. Additionally, the back design features a marbled paper pattern, which originated from the bookbinding practices in France and Germany, and was common throughout the 17th and 19th centuries. Notice we're missing the 18th century. Interesting. This deck was digitally created by Kristen Condor. Yay, Kristen Condor, your artwork is beautiful. With the assistance of William Rader. Yay, William Rader, your work is equally wonderful. They studied the decks preserved in the National Library of France and researched their history to understand the images, to create consistency. The same color palette was used throughout the deck. So, because they were looking at different decks, they had to choose one color palette to create consistency. The misaligned coloring was corrected and details were enhanced. So, this is a recreation of the deck. It's not a facsimile. It's a cleaned up, restored recreation of the Tarot de Besançon by Jacob Jerger in Besançon, France. Between 1820 and 1845, which is the 19th century. Are you ready? Okay, so let me set this aside and let me bring in my Yves Renaud deck. Now, let's see. The Yves Renaud deck has similar descriptions in both English and French, which are wonderful. We add a little bit of information, which is nice here. We know that Jacob Jerger, notice the different spelling of the name. Yves Renaud places the deck in 1801, which is earlier than the research done by Artisan Tarot. But he says that born on December 7th, 1777 in Kehl in Germany, and passing away on April 13th, 1860 in Besançon. Jacob Jerger was a master card maker active in Besançon from 1801 to 1845. In August of 1801, he married Antoinette Genard, a widow of the card maker Nicolas Labouré, and took over the fund of the latter. As early as 1801, Jacob Jerger produced the molds for this Besançon type tarot, a model featuring some characteristics differentiating it from the so-called Marseille canon, mainly by the replacement of the Pope and the Popess cards by Jupiter and Juno. The Ace of Cup having become Ciborum, which is a from what I recall, now it's been a long time since I studied theology and the Roman Catholic Mass. The Ciborum is a place for incense, and the Hermit is also different. The Capuchin is a replacement for the Hermit. Jacob Jerger produced this tarot for 45 years, but it was available for 75 years, from 1801 to 1891, reproduced by card makers who retrieved the molds. Louis, Renaud, active from 1845 to 1860, and Pierre-François Guyard, active from 1860 to 1875, and there are other names and other people. The present numbered and limited edition has been produced on the basis of an original copy of private collection. So my copy is 1329 out of 1500, but there are still copies available of this one. My deck that I got from Artisan Tarot is number 25 of 1000. Not it just giving you information. And this is what the backs of the Jacob Jerger deck look like, and this is what the backs of the Artisan Tarot deck look like. Both marbled, both pink, but you see that we've got a very strong white background here, and here we have a very yellowed background on the Yves Renaud deck. Okay, so let's move right into the decks themselves. Take away these cards, and I will bring in Le Faux. Here is the Fool. Yeah, I pity the Fool. And let me just make sure, centering on the camera. Just a moment, and let me bring this down a little bit more. Let me bring this down a little bit more. I could probably bring my crystal in a little bit more. And here we go. Here we go. So this is the Le Faux. And again, the artwork by Artisan Tarot is a redrawn, cleaned up version, right? The version by Yves Renaud is a touched up, cleaned up version of a facsimile. So this is facsimile. This is a recreation, redrawing, right? But we notice that we have here France J. Jerger on both of these cards. It's difficult to read in the deck by Yves Renaud, but it is there. They're on both. And we notice what looks like a cat face on the creature biting the leg of the faux, Le Faux. It's interesting, the coloration on the pants, right? Is this the inside of a pink stocking that is falling off of the leg? Is it an additional piece of cloth that seems to have come off, maybe like part of a cod piece? Who knows? Could be. Many possibilities. We have the sack on what looks like a spoon in both decks. Yeah? Okay, so cardstock. I didn't mention cardstock. Cardstock for Artisan Tarot decks is amazingly wonderful, excellent, right? It's sturdy, it's thin, it has linen finish, it's easy to shuffle, and it's very durable. The cardstock from the Yves Renaud deck is stiff. It has square corners. It's thick. It's a little difficult to shuffle, but it gets easier over time. And just so you see the difference in thickness between the decks, let me put them side by side. And yes, I'm going to have to go back and check centering in just a moment. But you can see how much thicker the Yves Renaud deck is as compared to the Artisan Tarot deck, right? The Artisan Tarot deck also has rounded corners, so it's much more friendly on the fingers. Sometimes the sharp corners of some traditional facsimiles of Tarot de Marseille can be a little bit painful on the thumbs, right? So let me make sure centering is okay. Let's continue. So we have the Fool. Wonderful. Notice the plant here between his legs is much more pronounced than in some other Tarot de Marseilles. Now, with a flower, a drooping flower. Why is the flower drooping? Good questions to ask. Yes, and isn't it interesting? It almost looks like there's a chainmail covering to the Fool's head beneath his hat, right? So, is this Fool someone of higher social standing than some of the other Fools we see in other Tarot de Marseille? Here we have Le Batelier. We can see lots of tools on the table for both of them. The face on the Artisan Tarot deck is much easier to see. There's a lot more shading and there are less clear lines on the face of the batelier. Both of them look a little sad, don't they? Yeah, we've got buttons on his jacket. We've got a plant between his legs. This one not yet bloomed. Yeah, a ready to bloom plant between the legs, which is interesting. And now remember, some people like putting the Fool at the end of the major arcana because there's no number on the Fool, right? The Fool can go anywhere. He can go at the beginning, can go after the world. So after the world, a drooping flower ready to move on to a new series of life, that could be an interesting placement or an interesting idea given the fact that this flower has drooped significantly. And the flower on between the legs of the batelier hasn't even begun to bloom, right? Okay, so it looks like we've got a little bottle of wine here on the sides, right? A little difficult to see in the Yves Renaud deck, but again, Yves Renaud is more of a facsimile. This is a redrawing. So much stuff on that table. Love the colors of the hats. You'll notice that the color palette is very similar. Of course, it's more saturated in Artisan Tarot decks. It is less saturated in a facsimile, as it naturally would be. But the color palette is, so far, consistent, I think, between these two decks. And we have Juno. Now, one thing I love about this cleaned up version of Juno is it's so much easier to see her face, to see what's going on with her bodice, to see the lines on her legs. It's a much easier to look at image than the facsimile. However, I'm also glad I have the facsimile in my collection, in my library, I should say, because I like having the more rustic, the older feel. Having this clean, crisp background in white is wonderful, but having the softer background of the antiqued yellow in the facsimile is also wonderful. So if you were to ask me, I would say get both decks. So you can choose one. Today, I want the crisp, clean, clear redrawing. Today, I want to feel that more antiqued version of the Yves Renaud deck. We have two swans there at both of Juno's feet. Yeah, interesting. Juno is in the pose of as above, so below for both decks, right? Now we're going to see that the poses are going to be exactly the same between these two decks. It's just a matter of one is more cleaned up, one is less so. We have a repetition of the Franz J. Jerger in the Empress card. Now we had it in the Fool. We did not have it we did have it in Juno. I'm sorry. I did not notice it. Follow the bouncing Franz Jacob Jergers. Here it was in the Juno card down there at her feet. So yes, in all of the major arcana, it will be there. We got the shield. We got the wand. This looks like a chair to me rather than wings. Sometimes some people see the back of the Empress as being wings behind her. And some people might still think that because of these three things that look like feathers down here. But to me, it looks like the back of the chair. Very clearly to me. Here we have the Emperor. Lovely, lovely. We don't see the legs in the crossed pattern, which reminds us of the number 4, right? And there's no number 4 here like it would be in a type 1 Tarot de Marseille. Very interesting pose of the Emperor in both of these. It's nice having the shoes more visible in the new deck by Artisan Tarot. The shoes are a little difficult to see here. We have a flower. We did not have a flower in the Empress card, but here the Emperor is sitting outside with a flower, a beginning to bloom flower at his feet, which is interesting. That helmet looks really small on his head to me, but it's interesting because the hair seems to be not only falling from his head, but to be falling from the helmet itself, doesn't it? which makes the head look stranger than some other decks. So interesting. So interesting. Okay, and here's Jupiter. And I love the cleaned up version. Yeah, this image is so muddy in the facsimile. It's nice to have a crisp version with an eagle there at his feet. We've got a really clear idea that these are flames, and we have lightning here in both of his hands, also as above, so below. In mirror to the Juno card, right? This hand up, this hand down, this hand down, this hand up, right? So they're mirror images, and they're looking at each other's feet, not so much at each other, but they're looking at each other's feet, which is an interesting thing to think of. Both of them have a bit of a foot fetish, apparently. So here we have Jupiter. I love the cloth blowing in the wind so powerfully. And the clouds here at the bottom. I love having a Besançon deck. I love having a couple of Besançon decks in my library. We see Cupid is blindfolded, and blindfolded to the extent that the blindfold looks like it's covering his head in both of these decks, right? Naked little butt, which makes us think that this is probably a type 2 Tarot de Marseille. Notice the cross on the shoulder of the woman on the left. Notice that? So is this to indicate that this is the more virtuous woman and this woman is the more sensuous woman, perhaps? Yeah? Although this woman with the cross also has a flower in her hair. So, how are you going to go with that? Interesting, the blending here on this, is that the robe, the dress? The robe outside is red. It looks like, this doesn't look like a dress to me, it looks like an inner robe, but it's really hard to distinguish what kind of clothes these women are wearing precisely. Love the little breeches here on the male figure in the center. Love the Mary Tyler Moore style hairdo on the guy in the center as well. Just saying. Notice that the heavens are colored very bright gold, right? A divine color, a color of enlightenment, but also of wealth, which is interesting. Moving on to the Chariot, and we can see the initials of Jacob Jerger, J.I. instead of J.J. Yeah. We also have probably another imprinter here below Jacob Jerger's name. France J. Jerger here is on the side. We got the two horses. We got very lively looking plants between the legs of the horses. Lovely card. And okay. So yes, this is definitely a type 2 deck. The moon should be facing sideways when we get to it. Here is Justice, and it's interesting. Look at what they decided to do for Justice. Here in the facsimile, we've got this pink bit here and then a gold bit here, and they seem very, very disconnected. It's the line for this, what the heck is going on here? So this makes more sense, although it also kind of looks like she's got a bra and she's bare. She's naked to the. I don't know. What is that? What is that? We can see through the scales here. We cannot really see through the scales so much here because of the yellow filling in between the ropes of the holding vessels on the scale. Does this look like wings? Do these look like wings behind the Justice figure to you? Notice how the face is a little bit different between these two cards. Also, the size of the cards. This card is a little longer and this card is a little shorter in image, so because of that, this face and neck look a little less elongated, where the face and neck of this being looks more elongated to me. But do they look like wings behind to you? They don't look like wings to me. Just saying. Okay. So Here we have the Capuchin. Capuchin is an order of the Franciscan friars of the Order of St. Francis. Remember St. Francis, he developed the Order of St. Francis. He was the founder of it. And then they split into 3 groups. There are the Capuchins. There are the what are the 2? There are 2 other orders of Franciscan friars, and the Capuchins wore the brown robes. Another order, the ones who lived primarily within a convent, wore black robes, and the ones who went out into the community wore gray robes, I believe. But again, it's been a long time since I studied. Here we go. We have the Capuchin. Yeah, I love the Order of St. Francis, just to let you know. Interesting choice on the lamp here. Yeah, we have 3 red glass sections in the Artisan Tarot deck. Here we have 1 reddish section of glass and then 2 gold sections. So, is the light on in this one? I don't know. Maybe the gold here is the light on and the red is a section of decorative metal or something, right? Or decorative glass. It doesn't look to me like the light is necessarily on. The candle is necessarily lit in the Artisan Tarot deck, but that's just what I see right now. Another thing I do see is we can definitely tell the difference between the outer and inner robe for the Capuchin here. Here it's all just brown, except for this bit here. Very interesting. This blue stuff, is it blue hair, maybe? Is it a bleed out of the background? We don't really see a full skull here with the hermit, do we? Very interesting. Here is the Wheel of Fortune. Beautiful, beautifully done. Again, having a cleaned up version is wonderful to have. Yeah, I love that we added the red flowers here, which we cannot see in the facsimile version. It's really difficult to see the face of this being here, where it's much easier there. Yeah, it's much easier to see that this is a rabbit-like creature than it is on the facsimile. It's all beautifully cleaned up, and I like the color choices on almost everything. This looks like a tassel tied to the butt of this being here, doesn't it? And this isn't so much a monkey as a person-like figure, right? Very interesting. Very interesting. Okay, here we have La Force. Love the lion figure. Little blue legs sticking out. Very, very cute. Very pleasant expression on both of the ladies' faces to me. I love the work here on the bodice with that little bit of maybe a peekaboo cutout here. So yes, the strength card, it's a beautifully done card. And another thing I didn't mention is this red dot on the lion's ear section, making me think a little bit, I don't know. I get this flavor of the dancing lion puppet in Chinese festivals, which is an interesting thing. Anyways, so there's that. One of my favorite cards in the deck, Le Pendu. You'll notice the 2 branches have 2 different colors. They are bitonal. I think that's a word, bitonal. We can definitely see boots on the feet of Le Pendu. His expression is very, very placid, very calm looking. Yeah. Very clearly tied to the bar above, which we don't often see as clearly as we do in this deck. But you know what? If he were to put his arms down, can he? I don't know. But if he were to put his arms down, it looks like he would be able to disconnect himself from this bar above. Right? Very interesting. Love having the 2 different colors of pant legs here. Lovely, lovely redrawing. Lovely clarity in the Artisan Tarot deck. And here we have La Morte. I'm sorry, I should not say that. This is the unnamed card, number 13. Interesting coloration down here, yeah? They kept this little burst of yellow in the center, fading to black. But the faces are much clearer to see in the Artisan Tarot deck here at the bottom. The hand, the bones. The spine of the figure in card 13, what looks like a skirt around the hips of the figure in card 13. But I also like having the facsimile deck. I really do. And card 14, Temperance. It's nice having the clear lines of the liquid flowing between the two vessels, right? Lovely. We see feet here in the Artisan Tarot deck. The feet are very difficult to see in the facsimile deck. It's clearer to see what she has on her forehead in the restored version rather than the facsimile. Lovely work. Absolutely lovely work. And I also love the clarity of the color on the ground. It's a little easier to see the grass growing here. Might have been interesting to have had a little bit of a different color there. Maybe, I don't know. Just a thought, but not a meaningful thought, perhaps. Here is Le Diable. So yes, this is definitely a type 2 Le Diable. There are no eyes in the knees, little furry thighs, furry chest, no genitalia, right? We got the flame. The flame is much easier to see in the cleaned up version by Artisan Tarot. Now the two imps, or the two beings chained to the pillar, it's easier to see what is what on their figures, on their forms, on their bodies, than it is on the facsimile deck, for sure. And I love the work, the what do we call that on wings? It's not the webbing, it's between what's holding the webbing into wing form. Those pink little, the bones or whatever they are. Maybe it's cartilage. Maybe it's bone, maybe it's something else, but that part of the wing, it's nice to have a very clear definition between that and the webbing between here, with the pink and the blue. I like that choice, is what I'm saying. Le Maison Dieu. We have the sun coming here, we have a very clear energy coming down into the tower rather than sometimes in a type 1 it looks like the energy is coming out of the tower going up, right? The two figures falling out of the tower, well, one figure falling. Notice the crack here is much easier to see than it is here on the facsimile version. The figure which could be falling behind or crawling out from behind the tower here is much easier to see in the Artisan Tarot deck, right? Lovely work, absolutely lovely work. And the star, so much easier to see in the cleaned up version. Notice this little plant sticking up here. I think I might have spat on the deck. There we go. This plant growing up here. There is no bird, right? There's no bird here. But again, the woman's figure is so much easier on the eyes than it is in the facsimile version. I'm glad that they kept that little patch of dark blue there in the background. That was a good choice, I believe. The dark blue star, the red star, all the color choices are lovely here. You notice how they kept the reddish and the yellowish here and blended them in Artisan Tarot's deck, where they're not blended and they're a little odd. They're a little more odd in the facsimile version. Franz J. Jerger, down here at the bottom of the star card. Follow the bouncing title. Here we have the moon. Okay, so the moon. Now the moon. The moon is face on. And now I'm feeling very, I'm feeling stupid. Because I need to, I'll be right back. So friends, I'm really sorry. It's been a while since I have done a walkthrough of Tarot de Marseille. And I made a mistake. I will put an indication of that earlier in the video in text, but I made a mistake. This is a type 1 Tarot de Marseille. Yeah, this is a type 1. How do I know that? Because of, let's look at these together. So let's go to the Lover card. Lover card. Type 1, this is my little Noblet, which is a type 1 deck. We see that Cupid is blindfolded. Type 1. Okay, here we go with the Chariot. You'll notice that the Chariot, where's my Chariot here? Here we go. The Chariot has a shield at the front with the name of the imprinter and this kind of a crinoline top, all characteristic of a type 1 Tarot de Marseille. So another area that I was mistaken. Then we go to the Moon. This is a type 1 moon, face forward. And you will notice that I did say I expected the moon not to be face forward earlier, because that was one bit that I did remember clearly between type 1 and type 2. So yeah, face forward, we have a type 1 Tarot de Marseille. But we'll also notice one little bit that is Swiss style in a moment. But here, yeah, type 1. I love the choice of these pinkish clouds here. They're easier to see. We've got the general gray cloud background here, but then we've got these two individual clouds, which are a little bit difficult to see in the facsimile, right? Love the different colored dogs in both of the decks. Love the red path. Fabulous, fabulous. And then we go into the Sun. Now, in this deck, especially in the redrawn deck, this figure looks more like a female being, and this figure looks like more of a male being to me. In the facsimile deck, it's a little more difficult to tell. And I would generally not read these as one female, one male. In most other decks, I would read them both as male, personally. That's where my eye goes. But here, this figure does look more clearly female to me, and I think it's primarily because of the face. I know that's an odd thing. Maybe a little bit because of the legs. I know that's an odd thing, but that's what I see. You can see what you see. But notice the wall is very different in this deck from, for example, let's see if I can find a wall in my, a sun card, in my Noblet, which is also a type 1, but the wall is, from what I recall, straight. The wall is, from what I recall, straight. Here's the Sun. Okay, so most Sun cards, the wall is straight, right? It's a straight deck. Oh, by the way, I didn't mention this Noblet is also by Artisan Tarot. Just saying. So this wall is generally just a straight old wall in the background, right? But for the Jacob Jerger, we've got this little jutting out bit of the wall, which is interesting. I think is interesting. And the Judgment card. Fabulous on both decks, right? But again, easier to see in the Artisan Tarot deck. Easier to see the thing in the crown of the forehead of this angel, right? Easier to see the faces and the line work on the body in the cleaned up deck by Artisan Tarot. Fabulous, fabulous, fabulous. And then we have the World card. Now, generally, the World card in type 1 decks, looks a little bit more male to me. Yes, they look like very well-developed pectoral muscles. They don't look like female breasts necessarily to me. In this deck, however, it kind of looks like a lady to me. Just saying. Yeah, although I also must say that it's very difficult to see what I'm looking at in the facsimile deck. Here it's much clearer. In the Artisan Tarot deck, right? Lovely, lovely work. Love the 4 creatures around the laurel wreath. And I love this little branchlet thing here. We don't get that in other decks, right? The bird is kind of perched on the laurel, or it's just floating in the air. Here in the Jacob Jerger deck, we have the eagle, which for me is representative of, for example, Scorpio. It's also representative of what? Let's see. So Luke, Mark, John, Matthew, the Gospel of Matthew. So here we go. Into the minor arcana with the Ace of Wands. Lovely, lovely. Notice the grapes here. It's easier to see in Artisan Tarot's deck, but they look like grapes or berries, at least to me. Hanging from what looks like a metal ring, huh? We don't see that very often. And the 2, very lovely, very nice work. Cleaned up version is much easier to see the details in. Like, for example, you notice these little filaments coming out of the flowers at top and bottom, which we can see here, but they look so much more delicate in the redrawn deck. The 3 of Wands, lovely. Now the wands are all going to be nicely cleaned up, and you'll notice one color choice difference is we're going more to the grays here rather than these light blues. The 3 of Wands, beautiful. The circular flower on top is fabulous. The 4 of Wands, I'm sorry, that was the 4. This is the, did I say 3 already? Okay, so I was looking at the 4 and I think I said 3 of Wands. So 3 of Wands, 4 of Wands, 5 of Wands. Lovely, lovely, lovely. Next would be the 6 of Wands, right? And you'll notice that we have the IV, which is the correct order. No, it's the incorrect order. Incorrect order, right? So we have additive numbers here, right? 4 is I instead of VI. I'm sorry, instead of IV. Instead of IV, we have I. This number order is backwards, right? This should be VI, but it's not, it's IV. And this should be VII, but it's not, it's IIV. Again, now here the order is correct for the 8s, right? VIII on both of these decks. So this is from the originals, that the ordering is a little wonky. And that's common in Tarot de Marseille. And here we have the 9 of Wands. Notice how thick the central wand is here on both of these decks. And the 10 of Wands. Beautifully done. Very crisp. Yeah, having the color all within the line work is nice, but also having a deck that has the bleed out and the faded color is also nice to me. Here we have the Valet de Bâton. Yeah, notice that it's B-A-A-T-O-N-S, B-A-A-T-O-N-S, both of these decks. Here we have France J. Jerger. But the face is so much easier to see in the cleaned up version, right? It's also easier to see what is happening with his clothes. The arm coming out of here. This being over the arm. This being perhaps under. Well, I don't know what it is, but it looks like it's coming from under the arm, or maybe under and the front of the arm. Very interesting. Interesting choice for the pink here instead of the gray color between the legs. But the shoes are easier to see. Very nice. Here's the Chevalier de Bâton, and it's again B-A-A-T-O-N-S, Bâton. Face is much clearer in the Artisan Tarot version. Love the face and the horse on both of these decks. Yeah, I like how they decided to blend the color from the face into the body in the Artisan Tarot deck. Lovely. And the Queen, look at that Queen. What do you think? Does she look happy? Does she look unhappy? Very odd expression on her face, right? Is this hair that's on her shoulders in gold? Probably, which means this green thing is part of her headdress with the crown, right? Love the sable robe behind her. Perhaps it's short, so it should be a cape. I don't know. Again, bâton, B-A-A-T-O-N-S, bâton. Sounding like a Québécois. Bâton. Oh, I lost my bâton. Just a second. Here we go. Get my bâton. And the king of bâton. Lovely. Lovely work. And it's interesting how we can see Franz J. Jerger cut out of the check pattern at the bottom. So that's really emphasized here. It's, what was it? For example, in the Chevalier, the Franz J. Jerger is really difficult to see. But here they made it very prominent. Is there a reason for that? I don't know. Also, we notice that in this deck, we have the gold color going up into the sky, but in the Artisan Tarot deck, that gold color is limited just to the crown. And we see the back of the hat, the inside brim of the hat behind the crown, right? Now, this is a Swiss Marseille style deck. I mean, element in this deck, this cup, which they called a chaborum, right? When we think of other Tarot de Marseille decks, let me try and pull out my Ace of Cups from my Noblet. When we think of other Tarot de Marseille decks, the cup is like this. We think of the city of Jerusalem, maybe, like this, right? But in Swiss decks, the cup is like this. So it's interesting that this guy from Germany who has moved to France has brought in this Swiss version, while still the wands, remember the wands were definitely the French version of the wands. The Swiss version of the wands have a very different tips to them. So that's all very interesting to me. And notice all the plants here on the bottom. We don't get many plants in Aces of Cups in other decks, right? We have flowers, we've got other plants. It's very lovely. We've got curtains on the top. Okay, so the two. Tarot fait par Jacob Jerger, fabricant carte à Besançon. So, yeah, this card was made by J. Jerger, and it was made in Besançon. The faces of these creatures on the two appear by the flower. Are they dragons? Are they fish? What are they? They're much easier to see than they are in the facsimile, right? In addition to the flower down here. It's crisp, clear. Crisp and clean and no caffeine. It's just like 7-Up. So, 3 of Cups, lovely, nicely done. Nice to see the clarity of the inside of the cup, and let's try and notice if the insides of the cups are uniform. It looks like they might be, but I'm not sure. So, 4 of Cups, lovely. Notice the heart at the bottom of the 4. It's not just a flower, it's a little heart, right? Kind of cool. The 5 of Cups. Why is it cool? Because cups are the suit of emotion and intuition also, but also relationships, right? So having a heart in the 4 of Cups, stable relationships, is nice. Again, this is the 5 of Cups. Here's the 6 of Cups. Lovely, lovely, lovely. So yes, so they're not exactly consistent. No, the insides of the cups are not consistent. We can see that the inside of this cup and the inside of this cup are very different, right? So they are individually drawn and sized, which is nice. And you'll notice here that we do have, instead of these, the shading here, we just have patches of black. But those patches of black are much clearer in the Artisan Tarot deck than they are in the Yves Renaud facsimile. And we have the, numbering. You'll notice that the numbering 6, 7, VI, VII are correct in the cups. They were not correct in the wands. Oh, here we are at the 8. Very nicely done. Nice having the cleaned up version. It's lovely. Crisp. Easy on the eyes. Don't have to keep trying to focus. Number 9, right? Love this card. We have a little less red in the flowers for the 9 in the Artisan Tarot deck than we do in the Yves Renaud deck, right? And then the 10, yeah? Easier to see this cap on the top large cup in the 10 of Cups for Artisan Tarot. And we have the Valet de Coupe. We have the hat in one hand and the vessel covered by the scapular on the page's clothes. Notice the red leaves down here. I think they're leaves. Interesting touch. But easier to see in the Artisan Tarot deck, right? And the Chevalier de Coupe, our writing romantic, what do we call those people in the Middle Ages who are troubadour? That's it, our troubadour. And it looks like, is this a hat behind him? Is it part of his clothes? Is it? Still can't tell. It's not like Artisan Tarot has gone in and said, well, let's make sure that this looks like his arm, or this looks like a hat, or this looks like something else, right? They followed the pattern. They've cleaned up the coloration, but they followed the pattern and cleaned up the line work. But the patterns that are a little odd, they maintain those interesting oddities. Love the line work on this vessel here, I just got to say. And it's so easy, much easier to see the Chevalier's hand here as differentiated from the horse's face, and it's a little more difficult to see in the facsimile version, right? And the Queen of Cups. Notice we don't have any cloth hanging over in front of the Queen in this deck. In other Queens of Cups, we will often have cloth hanging in front of their eyes, and we sometimes think that the Queen of Cups has limited vision, right? You notice that part? Here, in both of these decks, we do not have that. We have what looks like a very clear ermine robe or cape. Lovely. Love the check work on both of these, but we'll notice that in the facsimile deck we've got a light blue in the check work, and here we just have red, pink, and then pink with stripes. Cleaned up the color on the seat of the king here in the blue, right? It's easier to see what is happening with what kinds of clothes the king is wearing here than it is in the facsimile. Very nice. And here we have the Ace of Swords, right? Very strong, very powerful. We've got a little plant of berries, which looks like it's been cut off, right? And floating in the middle of the air. Maybe cut off from this side, perhaps. They're similar. Not the same, but similar, of a family, perhaps. Love the ribbons on both of these cards. Yeah, tying the plants to the sword. The cloud, interesting cloud work. The cloud from which the hand is protruding, yeah, these clouds, very interesting. Look kind of metallic to me. The Two of Swords, wonderful cleanup, yeah, of the colors between the lines, fabulous. The Three of Swords, we notice these two medallions here, much easier to see in the cleaned up version. The Four of Swords, love the flower on both of them. Very similar coloration, right? The Five of Swords, fabulous. So crisp, so clean, so clear. And, whoa, yes, the Six of Swords. We notice that the number is again incorrect. Yeah, it's IV instead of VI. So in the wands and the swords, 6 Let's look at, look at the balloon. Now, is this a flower? Is it a pomegranate? I don't know. But it's clearer to see than it is on the facsimile. So that was 6. Here is 7. 7 is also, no, 7 is correctly ordered. It's VII. We had IV here, but VII. So it was only incorrectly numbered so far in the wands, the 7s. The 6s for wands and swords were incorrectly not numbered, but the order of the numbers was incorrect, right? IIV instead of VII. The 8s, wonderful in both decks. Love the flower in the center. I love the crisp line work. I've got to say, I just love the crisp line work. And the 9 of swords. Wonderfully done. And wonderful to have this clean, crisp, white space between the central sword and the swords around it, where the colors sort of bleed out between these, and the separation is less distinct in the facsimile. The 10 of swords. Now, this one is probably my mistake. There we go, the 10 of swords. Lovely, lovely. Love how we can see that this sword has penetrated the central curved swords from the 10 here, whereas here we're not really sure. It looks like it's kind of just laying on top, right? Okay, valet de paix. I'm sorry, valet de l'épée. Valet de l'épée. Easier to see the sheath, I think, in the cleaned up version. This red blotch here becomes a red stone in the Artisan Tarot deck. Love the leggings on this figure. Just fabulous, just fabulous. Love the cleaned up hat. The hat is so much easier to see for me. The Chevalier d'Épée. Notice the Frank J. Jerger here between the legs of the horse. The stirrup, I love the color of the stirrup here. I love the helmet of the knight. And how easy it is to look at the epaulette on the left shoulder of the knight. Love the detail here on the cloth over the rump of the horse, right? It's a little difficult to see here in the facsimile. Love how we've got 2 blue on one side and 2 pink legs on the horse. Left is blue, right is pink, yeah? Maybe an active side, a receptive side. Things for us to think about. And the queen, Reine de l'Épée. All of these are l'Épée, right? Yeah. Chevalier de l'Épée. Reine de l'Épée. Okay. Now, in the Noblet, she is Reine d'Espée, right? So the spelling of these things there is always a little bit different. Here we have Roi. No, this is Roi de l'Épée. Love how clear the seat is on the new version, on the Artisan Tarot version. Love how it's easy to distinguish between the legs as well. And the face of the king is so much clearer. And what the knee protector here on the left leg of the king is so much easier to see. And there's a bit more separation between what looks like maybe a knee pad or some kind of protector and the seat, where this it kind of looks like this might be like a flower or something bursting. I don't know. It's really hard to tell. Okay, here we go with the coins. The ace of coins. And you'll notice, okay, so this is interesting. In the facsimile deck, we have IJ, which I guess would be JI from the Chariot card, giving us Jacob Jerger, right? On the Chariot card, it was, let me pull out the Chariot. Where are you, Chariot? Where are you, Chariot? Whoa, I have yet another deck beside me, and that other deck is starting to fall apart. Okay, So let me find the Chariot again from the facsimile deck. Okay, so you'll notice here on the facsimile deck, here it's, oh yeah, no. So JI, here it's IJ. But the J is facing in the correct direction, so it's not like the plate was reversed or something. I don't know. Very interesting. Very interesting. Okay, so we have the Ace of Coins. We do not have those initials on the Artisan Tarot deck, but we do have them on the facsimile. So it must mean that some of the imprints of this deck, that IJ disappeared, perhaps over time. Or this plate was redone. Two of Coins. Now you'll notice that there's no information on the Two of Coins as there are in other decks, right? Let's see in the Noble deck, the Two of Coins. Let me just show you an example from another type 1 Tarot de Marseille. Now, usually there's information. Jean Noble, DM, of Fabre Saint-Germain. Here we don't have any of that information. Reminding me a little bit, I think that's a typical thing, characteristic of Swiss decks, I think. Correct me if I'm wrong in the comments below. Let me know. I might be mistaken about that. Like I said, it's been a while since I've done a walkthrough of a TDM deck. Here we have the Three of Coins. Lovely. So much clearer up here. Yeah. Here, oh, look at this. Okay, so this is uncommon. Yeah, and the Four of Coins. Here we've got, instead of a shield or something, or a flower or something else, we've got what looks like another Juno to me. Now we have a swan. We got a female figure. Very interesting. And so much easier to see in the Artisan Tarot deck than it is to see in the facsimile deck, right? The Five of Coins. Woohoo! Fives. Lovely, lovely. Six of Coins. And the order is again incorrect, right? It should be VI, here it's IV, like a 4. But it's not a 4, it's a 6. Let's see if that's a problem for the 7s again. Okay, so here, the 7s are also backwards. IIV instead of VII. Similar to the Wands card. Very interesting, very interesting. And the 8s are wrong. Now, the 8s in the Wands, they had that correct, right? Here's the 8 of the Wands. VII, I, here, IIIV. That's a pretty big error, right? And they did the same thing with the 9s, which they did not do in the Wands suit. Jojo, sorry. My cards are being slippy. Let's see, the 9 of Wands. Right? VIII. Here it's IIIV. Very interesting. That's a big goof up on the original printer, not for Artisan Tarot, not for Yves Renaud, but the original printing of this deck. That's very interesting. And then the 10s. And Valet de Denier. Valet de Denier. No, not too much of a strange spelling here. We do have the 2 coins, one floating in the sky in the background and one floating above the valet's hand. Again, the colors on the clothes, it's so clear, so much easier to look at. The Chevalier de Denier, do we see the floating coin in front of the eye of the Chevalier? And at his foot we have Franz J. Jerger. Now, we see that Artisan Tarot cleaned this up, but it still leaves us to question, what the heck is that, right? What is that? I don't know. The Queen of Coins, Léa de Denier, very lovely. Love her seat. Much easier to see the seat as distinct from her robes. Love her face here. She looks much harsher in the facsimile deck than she does in the cleaned up version, to me. Her wand is easier to see as well. and the Le Roi de Denier. Now we have nice filigree or design element on the side of the seat. We can see the banding on the chair a little more clearly in the Artisan Tarot deck. His clothes, we lose this blue patch here. But I think that's a good thing, because what is that blue patch doing there? It makes it more confusing, right, than it does here. So I think that's a good choice. The hat is just wild, right? What kind of a hat is that? Who knows? But it's the King of Coins hat. And there we are, the end of the walkthrough for both of these decks. And just as this back card to the Artisan Tarot deck says, thank you. Thank you very much. Which deck do you think is interesting? Which do you prefer? Or are you like me? Would you prefer to have both in your library of Tarot de Marseille? Let me know in the comments below. And thank you. Thank you for hitting the thumbs up button. Thank you for watching to the end. There will be links in the description box below so you can go and purchase this deck from Artisan Tarot. It's a fabulous deck. Again, oh, shuffle. So, okay, I was thinking too soon. I'm going to do that for us. I'm going to shuffle this deck, and I'm going to do a kind of spread for us, a 3-card spread. I think I can fit a 3-card spread in this camera setup. So, if you want to skip ahead, I have a very unique, perhaps frustrating to watch way of shuffling cards. But if you're interested in seeing how these cards shuffle, now this is how the overhand works very nicely. It's got a really strong, newly printed deck sent to it, which is pleasurable for some of us. Let me show you a riffle shuffle. These decks riffle shuffle like heaven. Look at this. Beautifully. Now look at this. Look at how wonderfully they mix themselves, right? And oh, I should have showed you the bridge. Well, I'm going to shuffle again anyway, so let's see. Riffle shuffle. Oh, okay, so my riffle. Okay, let me do that again. So focused on moving quickly to that bridge that I forgot to concentrate on what I'm doing. So here, riffle shuffle and bridge. Do you hear that? You hear that bridge? Isn't that wonderful? Okay, so let me do cut the cards again. And shuffle again. Now, for me, a 1-card pull for Tarot de Marseille does not make sense. So I'm going to do a 3-card pull. And the question that I'm asking the cards is, what would we benefit from being aware of at this moment? So for you as you watch, for me as I do this, as I read the cards, what would we benefit from knowing now? Well, and what I'm going to do, since I don't have time to really do a good shuffle, a really thorough shuffle, I'm going to pull 8s. What does that mean? That means I'm going to go in and I'm going to pull the 8th card, and then I'll count another 8 and pull that card, and I'll count another 8 and pull that card, and I'll pull 3 cards in that way, which will give us a little bit more of a randomized selection of cards. I hope. Okay, so I will cut the deck. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. King of Swords. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 4 of Cups. And you'll notice that the King of Swords is looking at the 4 of Cups. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And another cup. Okay, so, oh, interesting. Did all that and I got the 4 and the 5 together. So what does that mean? That means that we want to have clear vision, far vision. We want to be the master of our minds and be willing to look into the unknown and to being able to look into take a very broad view of where we are and what is coming, and to understand and to be able to have the courage to look within the unknown. And we do that by keeping a very balanced emotional state. We want to have good, strong, balanced emotions, right? And relationships with other people. And from that, we might even be able to include somebody new within our stable relationship group. Whether it's a family, it's a group of friends, we might be able to see into the future, see into the unknown, be able to see something new in other people and include the new person, or have a new, fresh breakthrough of emotion. So it could be a new person, or it could be within ourselves, a breakthrough of a new, powerful, emotional feeling. A new feeling of love, a new feeling of maybe even intuition tied to emotion. As we look far into the distance with a basis of a stable, strong relationships and emotional balance. Does that make sense to you? I hope so. I hope that's a benefit to you. I think it is a benefit to me too. So friends, I wish you love, joy, well-being, and pure awareness. Thank you.